disclosure. We'll be discussing about a movie that is currently in theaters. And given the state of the world at the time of this recording, COVID-19 has created a pandemic around the world. Some people don't feel comfortable going to theaters. We personally did, so we went and saw this movie. If you don't feel comfortable going to the movie theater, please do not feel pressured or forced by us to go and watch this movie. Just hear what we have to say if you're so interested.
Now that the red tape is out of the way,
welcome to Moviecast.
Welcome, everybody. And this week we're going to discuss Tenet. Now, disclaimer, we will be doing, off the top, a spoiler-free overview and everything of the movie, so that if you want to be persuaded to go and watch this movie, you watch the first half of this YouTube video or stream.
We don't really know.
We don't know exactly, but when I put the YouTube link, I'll put a timestamp in the description of like when we switch to spoiler territory. And on stream and everything, we'll have a big spoiler warning that comes up, so you can...
You won't miss it.
Yeah, you won't. So, be that as it may, I typed it in chat already, but for those coming in live or whatever, when we're in the spoiler-free time, don't be typing spoilers in chat. That's just not cool. Don't be doing that. And other than that, we're just going to jump right into the...
We'll say two more things. First of all, hi, I'm the Schininator. This is Logibear.
We forget this almost every time.
We'll get there.
We'll write an intro script sometime.
Additionally, Tenet is not the only thing that came out this week. There's also the releases of the New Mutants, finally, after like 5 years of it.
A
disaster of production and studios and stuff. Also, Bill and Ted Face the Music, which was released in theaters and on video on demand. Kind of cool. Smart move, personally, I think. The Schininator, am in fact a movie critic, and if you want to see reviews on both of those other movies, along with Tenet, feel free to check me out on Facebook. The link will be in the description on YouTube. And now that I think we both got all our disclaimers and preambles out of the way,
I think so.
Let's jump into it.
Yeah. So right off the top, obviously this movie this is the next.
This is the spoiler-free section.
Yeah, this is spoiler-free.
In broad stuff or footage that you see in the trailers.
Yes. First off, if you didn't know, this is Christopher Nolan's newest movie.
This is 11th
film,
I think.
Yeah, I think so. So this isn't. It plays with time. He just that's in the trailer. That's like the whole like.
Kind of his knack now.
Yeah, it's kind of what he's known for. So like, it's a head scratcher, and that doesn't spoil anything because almost all of Christopher Nolan's movies kind of leave you.
The trailers are a head scratcher too. So.
Yeah, you're gonna be left with some questions, and that's okay because I think that's what makes a good movie is something that you're talking about and questioning after the fact.
It's definitely not forgettable.
Yeah, definitely not. Couple of things. The cast of this movie is something that, in my mind, shouldn't work that well, but is incredible. Because you just have some very eclectic actors coming together, and they work really well.
Yeah. And to start off, and John David Washington, who plays the protagonist. His character does not actually get a name in the movie, which is very interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you count that as a spoiler, but you can just...
It's not. It's on IMDb. It's free information.
You don't learn his name. Very interesting move. He really brings his A game this time. He plays this spy.
Some kind of special forces.
He's very serious, about what he's going to do. Yeah. But he also has these lighthearted, and I'm not going to say funny, but they are fun moments in the movie. In the way that he's like talking to people or addressing things, like he kind of like looks threats in the eyes and is like, well, hey. I don't really care.
He can take things. He can make things lighthearted.
Yeah, but it also doesn't just detract from, this more serious tone of the movie. And there are a number of action scenes. He's involved in most of them.
Yep.
And he really does well.
Oh yeah.
And he does his own stunts in this movie.
Every single one.
And he really brings his A game. And it helps. Yep, it's so much cooler knowing that it's actually him doing that. It's not a stunt double or or a CGI face on something. But no, it's like actually him, throwing people around and doing these really unique action scenes that it took extra training to do because this is not something you're going to see in other action movie.
Yeah, and it also just the action set pieces in this movie again are they're completely different just on the premise of the movie. But even if you take that away, they're still really good.
Oh yeah.
They're shot well. There isn't a ton of cuts. It's not like cut, like punch, cut, punch, cut, punch, cut. It's you actually see the full range of movements, and there's actual like motion to the action, and it flows well. And I think that says a lot. I think just in Christopher Nolan, I think he's really good at that. Like we look at Inception and we look at the hallway scene and we think of all these things where there's very little cuts in this action. And it really it actually adds so much to the movie because sometimes in action movies you get so I personally get so distracted when it's cutting every 5 seconds, and that's even every
5 seconds.
Yeah, like 5 seconds is way too generous. And so they kind of eliminate. They still have those moments, but it's way less in this movie, and it is so much better.
The fights are easy to watch.
Yes, yeah,
easy to follow.
The last one gets a little but we'll get to that.
The action itself, I wouldn't say it's hard to follow. It's because they're doing some weird stuff around it.
Yes,
that part might be hard to follow.
But anyway,
we're talking about the protagonist. This movie also has an antagonist in the form of Kenneth Branagh.
Kenneth Branagh.
Now, I just wanted to throw this right out there. What I like about his character is they don't try to, humanize him. He's not like, they're not trying to convince you that what he's doing might be okay in his own eyes. And maybe this isn't your Thanos where it's like, oh, I understand where you're coming from. No, the dude's just a bad guy.
He's just evil. He just wants to see the world burn.
Yeah. He's evil and selfish, and there's no moment where you're like, oh, you know what, maybe he's not that bad. No, he's bad from beginning to end, and I feel like the appreciation for that kind of villain is being lost, especially in the light of your Killmonger and your Thanos. I think there's a time and a place for just a bad guy, and this movie worked with it really well. And his performance, he sells it. Oh man, really well too.
There is a couple of specific scenes in this movie where I actually personally wanted to strangle Kenneth Branagh.
I can feel you squirming when you see
because there's a few things that I really don't like, and they do one of them in this movie, and it's fine. It's just something that I don't like to see on screen. Something scary or anything like that. It's just something that enrages me. And so, but Kenneth Branagh does this, and I legitimately was like Connor said, I was squirming because I was like, because it got me. He actually was able to make me feel like I wanted to strangle him.
Yeah.
Which is something that doesn't happen a ton. And if you can deliver that performance, you deserve something. It's I like to compare it to Umbridge from Harry Potter 5.
Yeah.
We all hate that movie because
well, we hate the character.
We hate the character of Umbridge so much that people don't even like the movie necessarily. Some people can't watch it, and it's that is just a testament to how well that actress performed.
Yeah.
So
the only poor thing is that now she can't star in anything because everyone sees Umbridge and I don't like you at all.
Yeah, she's very typecast now, which sucks. But anyway, it's funny because Kenneth Branagh was also Gilderoy Lockhart,
Yeah.
Which not his best performance, but he grew.
He said better. He said worse.
Yeah. So so there's the female
Elizabeth Debicki.
Yeah,
who played Aisha in Guardians of the Galaxy 2.
Now, I don't really know what to call her because she's not a protagonist necessarily. She's not even
she's a main side character.
Yeah, but I just don't know what side to put her on, really. She kind of fights for her own team in one sense, and it's really cool.
Sure. Sure. Yeah.
But she also has a really good performance as well.
Yeah.
She sells some really good scenes.
There's been a complaint that she doesn't do enough in the movie. You know, that she's kind of there for like a bit of eye candy.
She's
you know,
kind
a
of
bit
the
like
James
that.
Bond girl type. That's kind of how she's portrayed.
I think as the movie goes on, she definitely, earns her spot in the movie, and she actually does things. She's not just sitting around the whole time. You know, I can't say too much, but she does some stuff, and it's like you're not. You're not just a ride along in this movie. You know, you're an important character here, and I appreciate that because there was definitely a risk of, you know, just having her be someone there and not really being that important.
Nah, she does a lot, and I really like her character, which is surprising because historically, when we talked, Connor off screen have talked about similar characters like that in other Nolan movies. I've been very against them.
Logan has some issues with relationships in Nolan movies.
No, just one. Anyway.
But you haven't seen a couple of them too. And I feel like
I only haven't seen 3 now.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that is great. I gotta brag up my boy. The main squeeze, the OG, the real friend, Robbie Pattinson. I call him Robbie because I feel like we're gonna be friends one day, and I feel like I'm gonna earn that right.
That's optimistic.
Yeah, he's gonna know who I am. Trust me. Anyway, Robert Pattinson. He plays like probably the main side character, really.
Yeah.
He plays the protagonist as kind of like friend, partner, PIC, partner in crime, and he does such a good job at it. Now, I don't want to get off too quickly, but if you had any doubts about Robert Pattinson playing Batman, I had my doubts, and after seeing this movie, not a doubt in my mind that this kid can act.
I think that this movie's going to do wonders for him. He's done a lot of acting since Twilight.
Yeah,
he has, but nobody's seen it.
They're all very
because they're not blockbuster, right?
They're all indie films.
And now this is not maybe
It's still a blockbuster. It's just
came out. This isn't your superhero movie type of thing. But I mean, I think people will see this.
Yeah.
And I think when people watch Robert Pattinson, they say, "Oh, maybe he's not such a bad guy after all. He's not just a sparkly vampire."
Yeah.
From like 10 years ago.
Or he doesn't just get killed in the one Harry Potter movie he was in.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, Cedric. Anyway, but Robert does a fantastic job because I can't explain it right now because it's a spoiler, but he has a very distinct way that he has to act, and he does it really well.
Yeah.
Because he has to act as an actor, kind of in a sense. So it's really cool.
He's also fun and lighthearted movie as well, where there's like the scene in the trailer where they're talking about crashing a plane into an airport.
Yep.
And he's like, well, don't be so dramatic. Well, how big's the plane? That might be a little bit dramatic. I think, I will say the chemistry between him and John David Washington,
it's great.
It's believable. Like those two were probably great friends off screen as well.
They probably hung out off screen. They probably sat down and had a drink.
They're going to McDonald's together and got some dry food.
Probably.
Yeah.
So.
There's a number of smaller characters that make appearances in this movie.
Yep.
I don't know if we should really talk about any of them right now. Do you think so?
Oh, I guess, but Eve or
Ives. Yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson makes an appearance in the second half of this movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It's definitely a different role. I didn't recognize him at first. I was like, who is that? And then
Yeah.
But I'm not going to say it's my favorite Nolan movie because I have to watch it again. But as of right now, it's up there with The Prestige as my favorite. I kind of exclude the Batman trilogy because they're just off on its own. Christopher Nolan directed them, but they're Batman movies, so I stick them in my Batman list.
Sure.
That's just my own personal. Whatever. It's a really fantastic movie that will actually like leave you with some really good questions, and like not like stupid cliffhanger plot hole questions, but like head scratching, like how did they, like what?
Yeah.
And
It'd be similar to the way that you watched it in Inception the first time, or Interstellar.
Yeah.
No, it's a bit more phantasmical.
Yeah.
Than you might usually see, especially in maybe like a spy movie.
That's actually a good point to make. Is this isn't a typical like action. It's not just a shoot 'em up action movie. It is a like a it's like
spy thriller.
Well, yeah, it's a spy thriller, but it's like a espionage movie. That's the word I was trying to think of.
So like spy.
Yeah, but espionage is still different because
depends.
Like Cold War type of like. That's the word they use in the movie, in the trailers even. So like, yeah. It's slower in some areas, but man, it doesn't drag on at all. Like I could have.
I'd actually say it's pretty fast paced.
It is, yeah.
That's one of the cool things they do is a lot of especially when they're planning for things. There's this kind of snap, or it's for jumping here, there, and they kind of flesh out the plan.
Yeah.
And it's not, they don't linger on it. It's not like,
it's not a
hey, we're going to do this. Also, how are you doing? Like, are you feeling up to this? No. It's like, here's what we're planning here, here's what we're planning here, here's what we're planning here, and then we get into what we're doing. And it's...
Yeah.
And there's definitely a risk when you do that your audience gets lost, and that they can't... You're like, what's happening? What? I don't think that's really that much of a problem.
No, it's not a heist movie. Don't go in thinking this. First of all, don't go in thinking this is a sequel to Inception. I've heard that going around that people think this is somehow related to that. No. It's not, in any stretch of the imagination.
It's very much a standalone.
Yeah, so don't think that, and it's a different type of movie. I don't think Christopher Nolan's really made a movie like this. It's got a similar feel, but it is distinct in a lot of areas.
I'd say his movies like them, but it also is separate from the rest of them.
Yeah. But I don't have any more non-spoiler kind of things that we can
go over. If I'm going to personally share my ranking as someone who's been well-versed with Christopher Nolan for many years now, I would put it mid to higher middle tier. I think, it's not his best movie. It's a good movie, great movie.
Yeah.
I think he definitely has, a few that he's made that are better. But if you're comfortable, absolutely, watch this movie. And I've seen it twice. Logan has only seen it once as of right now.
It again, yeah.
A second viewing, massively beneficial.
Yeah.
Which if you've watched Inception or Interstellar or any of these movies, that's kind of usually the case where it's like, oh, I watched it again, and because I knew what kind of happened in the last third of the movie, the first 2/3 made a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Which we'll get into in a few minutes. We get spoiler.
Yeah. One other thing that I want.
Oh, I got one more too.
It's not a bad. It's not a negative comment. It just. For me, I have to watch it again because seeing it in IMAX, I missed some of the dialogue. Now, is it all groundbreaking, important dialogue? Not necessarily, no. But I don't go to a movie necessarily to hear the explosions and the loud soundtrack in the background. I go to hear the characters act and the dialogue, and so I think that's another. I'm going to see it again because I like the movie and I want to unpack it more. But also, if you see it in IMAX, it is just it's got that IMAX Christopher Nolan it's loud.
Volume.
It's just
as someone I saw it twice and I did struggle a little bit hearing what people are saying. Second time around, when you know what's happening and you're just listening to the words and not trying to figure out what the plot is, you hear it the second time.
Yeah, and that's what I thought would happen.
It's funny that you mentioned the soundtrack because, interestingly, Christopher Nolan has used Hans Zimmer for most of his movies.
Yeah.
This was not a Hans Zimmer score. This was actually scored by, I'm going to totally butcher his name, Ludwig Göransson, who scored Black Panther and the Mandalorian series on Disney Plus.
Yes.
I really like him as a composer because he's kind of experimental. He's very involved with the filmmaking process, so that he can make music that reflects the movie well.
There's that like piano riff that's in like the trailer, and like it only shows up like once in the movie.
Yeah.
And I was really looking forward to more of it because it was really good. But when it shows up, it's like.
And there's a lot of different sounds in this movie, and some of it is used to tell you kind of like, you know, how time is being affected in this moment, or you know how tense you're supposed to feel, or like just the general mood.
Yeah.
But man, that soundtrack kills. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a bop for sure. But
we're moving on.
I was gonna say, I think all that being said, this is your verbal warning. Like before I put up the spoiler alert, that
let's say goodbye.
In the next couple of minutes, maybe not even, we will be talking about a probably very in-depth, spoiler-filled review of Tenet. Okay?
If you haven't seen it, you don't want to be spoiled. Thank you for watching the Moviecast.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. We don't really know what we're doing, but
we don't know yet.
We'll have a video next week.
Yeah, we'll have something.
Thank you for watching. See you later.
So, awesome.
You want to flip up the graphic?
I want to change the title on the screen too.
Wow.
Yeah, it's spoiler time.
Wow. Wow. Dude, all caps, man. And then just hold down the one with all the inserts.
Yeah.
Alright. I seem to have cut this out for
that. I'll keep doing that. Anyway. Okay. So let's put it as one video.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but you cut them all.
So,
spoiler alert. Daffy Duck shows up in this movie.
Yeah.
No, he doesn't.
Nah. But actually, Howard the Duck is in 3 frames of this, so
yeah, he is actually. So because they were filming a Marvel movie at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Glad you noticed that.
Yeah. It took. You know, I had to do the I had to do the visual rewind in my head, but I found them.
Yeah. We're also totally kidding.
All jokes aside, no duck shows up in this movie from pulp culture.
Yeah. There are seagulls flying backwards.
Yes. There are.
Cool. So I think really what we're going to talk about in the movie. Well, I think we're going to break down to like there's 3 major action locations.
Yes.
In the airport, the highway, and the war
battle
at the end.
The mine.
Yeah. Sure. Whatever it is.
Yeah.
The desolate area.
Yes.
And then there's also a nice little twist at the end where you find out that Robert Pattinson has been working for John David Washington in the future the whole time.
Yeah.
And that really everyone's been working for John David Washington, that his character in the future sets up Tenet, and then he kind of hires himself in the past to do the work, which is very interesting.
It is very... So, okay, none of that made sense because you still don't understand the main premise of the movie.
Well, they've seen the movie. And
maybe.
That's what we're assuming.
Maybe not. Maybe they just want a spoiler-free review before they go and watch it. I can't assume that.
A spoiler-filled?
Filled, you're right. Yes. Anyway, so the movie centers around this idea of time inversion.
Yes.
And that one person will be going through time normally, like birth to death normally, but there is some nuclear waste material stuff that is able to...
Project some help.
I want to see if I can do it, because it was very clear that it was something nuclear because of the guy to mine it and stuff. And then they are now able to be inverted in time so that they are now going backwards, in one sense, through time, but everybody else, like, doesn't see them going backwards through time. Only they see themselves, like, physically, like, going backwards in time, and everything is opposite.
Yeah.
Hot becomes cold, cold becomes hot, you know, gravity, everything is different.
Yeah.
Which you see in the trailers, when he's, like, walking, and the sand like comes up, because it's already happened.
Yeah.
But he's seeing it, and he's doing it in reverse, which is really, it makes for some really cool visual effects.
Yes.
But it also just like really plays with your mind until you like figure it out, because they don't tell you about any of that stuff really till about halfway through the movie, but you see it affecting the world without really having an explanation of it.
Yeah.
And it, for like the first like half of the movie, you're just like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
So
there are objects, and as we perceive them, we move forward in time. There are also objects that move backwards in time that are imperceivable to us because as we witness them, they're just moving
forward.
Now, in the future, someone created an algorithm which would allow, or they discovered how to invert people and objects and small machines, allowing them to go into a machine, allowing them to go backwards in time until they find another machine which allows them to go forward in time at the point in the past when they go through the machine again. The nuclear thing you're thinking about is that whoever is helping Kenneth Branagh's character hid 9 pieces of an algorithm at nuclear sites because he didn't want anyone to find them. And Kenneth Branagh's mission is to find all 9 physical pieces of this algorithm. So that when he dies, he will invert the whole world and basically cause it to turn into nothing.
Everybody will die with him.
Yeah.
Because he's got some rare blood disease.
He's cancer.
Which is a blood disease.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Now, if you watch it and you really think about it, you can kind of come up with plot holes here and there and all this and that.
You could do that with any movie, though,
right.
So.
You don't have to do that, alright? You don't have to.
No.
It's pretty cool to watch.
It is.
Yeah.
There was a point in the movie where I, wish I could have just hit pause, took 5 minutes to just, gather my thoughts for a second, and was like... And just because all the pieces are put in front of you to understand it, it's just the movie keeps going that you don't have time to put them all together.
Yeah.
Until and even the very end, they actually just kind of mess with you more when Robert Pattinson's like, oh, you're actually guy from the future that I've known this whole time because you hired me forever, way in the future, but then I got sent back. I inverted my... It was just I had it all under control as to how everything worked, and then they did that, and I was just I give up.
And they do. There's a lot of cool things that they do with that too.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the movie, in the opera scene,
oh yeah,
John David Washington is saved by a faceless man, which means you can't see his face. He didn't actually lack the face. But he has this little orange cord hanging from his backpack as he runs away. You're oh, that's odd. What's happening there? And then when they first meet, John David and Robert, it's their first names. There's not their names in the movie. I just prefer to use actors' names. Robert orders John David a Diet Coke. And John David's like, I see you did your research. He says, you don't drink on the job? He says, actually, I prefer soda water. Robert says, no, you don't. And it's when you think about it later, and you're like, oh, because he knew him in the future, so that's how he knew.
Well, there are a lot of little things, subtle hints throughout the, when they're having a conversation in the crate after they've been inverted.
Yeah.
And, oh, no, even way before that.
You're talking about the physics.
Yeah, so this is so we obviously knew Robert Pattinson was going to play some pretty major role in this movie just based on the trailers and everything. First time you see him, well, I guess not the first time.
It was after the airport scene.
The first time they have any, do a full mission together or anything where this inverted time stuff is in play, Robert Pattinson is just I just nonchalant. I have a master's in physics as John David Washington is explaining to him how this inverted stuff works. Robert's just and it's it's such a throwaway line in that moment of okay, I guess it would make sense that this person that kind of knows physics would be working with this guy. But then I was like, no way Nolan puts that in. Like in my mind, I was like, no way Nolan puts that in there nonchalantly. When the whole movie's based around physics, like that just doesn't happen. And so then my suspicions were correct when I found out after the fact.
He's actually been working with a inversion team,
which is awesome. First of all, Tenet is this whole group, is this army, is a secret army. It's like a Cold War, and they have specially trained military that are trained in inversion tactics.
Yeah.
So they use this strategy twice. Once the enemy uses it, and then once the good guys use it. It's a pincer inversion.
Yeah.
And basically you attack from both ends of time at the same time.
Yeah.
And that makes for some dope action, but it also really messes with the people you're attacking with.
If we're talking about inversion, I think that was a great segue to get into our action points. Should we talk about the last one first and work our way backwards?
Sure. Yeah.
All right. At the end of the movie, we see this great spectacle of action in a war style.
Yeah. It's a destitute place in Russia.
With this pincer movement being used.
Yep.
Where a bomb is going off in 10 minutes. And one team, including Aaron Taylor Johnson and John David Washington, are going forwards in time until 10 minutes ends and a bomb goes off. While Robert Pattinson is at the 10-minute mark, going backwards 10 minutes, reversing in time on a different team. He lands when the bomb goes off, and then they take off.
It's
so unique.
They're smart in it that they label red team is like John David Washington and Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah.
And then that Robert and his team is in blue. So as the person in the audience, you don't get lost as to who is going forward and backwards, because to us, I guess you could kind of see them working differently, but it
should also be noted, just to say right now, they use red and blue
so much in this movie. A lot in this movie.
At the beginning of the movie, he dies. He gets all his teeth pulled out, and he takes a cyanide pill. It's a thing. And when he wakes up, one of his eyes is bloodshot and red.
Yeah.
And the other one casts a blue light. It's pretty cool.
Well, and then the very first time he gets inverted is red and blue.
Yeah. It's always in those rooms.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
But this
the red team and the blue team helps, and it's interesting knowing kind of what's coming, because you'll see something at the beginning of the red team, and you know that's coming at the end of the blue team's mission, and vice versa.
Yeah. Well. And so the whole point of this mission is to bury
It's to stop the algorithm from being blown up.
So there's a piece that they need.
All nine pieces have been assembled at this point. Because it's a giant rock that they just assembled at the end.
There was a piece there that the guy was pulling out. That was the whole thing. The guy was pulling the time capsule out of the ground with the last piece in it.
I think you're thinking of a different part of the movie.
No, that's right at the end with the cage and whatever.
Yes.
And the bald dude that I hated the whole movie.
Yes.
He's pulling out the last safeguarded piece of the thing.
False.
And why are they in the cave? What's he doing there then?
Because there's a bomb in there that is connected with Kenneth Branagh's
Yeah, I got
wristwatch. It's going to blow up. And they put all 9 pieces of the algorithm in there. So when it gets destroyed, the world inverts on itself and destroys the world. Okay. So the bald guy's there to stop our main cast from stopping him.
But it would make sense if he was I don't know, whatever. I'm not gonna argue. It's not worth arguing over. Watch the movie and make your own decision. Connor's probably right, and I'm probably getting it wrong. You've seen it twice.
Yeah.
But I digress. So the point is, they're stopping the end of the world.
Yeah.
And this is the action in this point is also cool because it happens on 2 folds, not both forward and backwards in time, but literally in 2 locations.
Yeah.
Because you have the main villain, Kenneth Branagh. You have his captive, I'll say, because it's not really his wife. Yeah. She's kind of like the Bond girl, the eye candy, and she has to stop Kenneth Branagh from killing himself, which would then
for long enough
for them to stop this bomb or to
stop the end of the world.
Stop the end of the world with this algorithm coming together.
Yeah.
And so it creates some really good tension.
Yep.
And stuff, which is crazy. And you see some really cool shots of like her being like, because she's inverted in time in that moment.
Well, she had been inverted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you see her jumping off the boat.
Yeah.
When she's going forward through time. Because that's when she meets John David Washington. She talks about the freedom that this unknown woman had diving off the boat.
Yeah.
Saying like she's free and stuff, and it's this whole like metaphor for her being free from Kenneth Branagh's grasp.
And that's a little bit of foreshadowing as well.
Yes, it's really well done. But this action reminds me of like Battlefield. Like if you've ever like played a Battlefield game or
Battlefield on acid.
Well, not even on acid. It wasn't trippy. It was like you just had to.
I mean, some of it was. Buildings are rebuilding themselves and then exploding again.
That only happened like once, like really though. Like.
Well, we also see back and forth, and this building gets
over
there, and then John David's running, and he gets lifted up by a piece of debris. And...
Sure, trippy's not the word I would use. When I think of trippy, I think of like psychedelic.
Yeah, sure.
But I digress. It doesn't matter. It reminds me of like Battlefield, like just the scale of this battle, and like
this is a lot of people.
This is kind of a pet peeve that I have with action movies, and Christopher Nolan did it the best that I've seen. But like, we don't like. There's a couple of scenes that show you the size of their army, and it doesn't look that big, and then it just seems like there's just an endless amount of soldiers on the battlefield, and it's just like that's one of my biggest pet peeves in all action movies is like when they don't keep an accurate account of how many people they actually have. And it's totally fine. It doesn't detract from the movie or anything. It just is like, thinking about it now, is like, they had like hundreds on hundreds of people. But realistically, they dropped 2 cargo containers, which you ain't getting hundreds and hundreds of people in there. So like, I don't know. It still is really freaking cool. Like Connor said.
The way they mess with
The way they mess with one poor guy just gets... just
absorbed into a wall.
Like literally, he's behind a destroyed wall, but he's in an inverted timeline. And they're all yelling at him, "Get out! Get out! Get out!" And it's just like climbing out the wall, rebuilds on top of him and crushes them. And it's like, ooh.
Yeah.
And they do some really cool things where like a building is falling in inverted time, but then in real time it's built up. And then they blow it up with a rocket launcher again anyway. So you see this...
In one timeline,
yeah,
the building's been fallen over. Or in one direction, it's been fallen over.
Yeah, it's
in the other direction, the top is blown up. And then at about the 5-minute mark, we watch as one side sees it come up.
Yeah.
And then the top blows up. And the other one gets to see the top come together and the bottom blow up.
It's so well done.
And it just looks really cool.
And it's so funny because Christopher Nolan like prides himself on like not using visual effects, but then he does stuff
use
like
them unnecessary.
But then he does stuff like that, which is like kind of unnecessary, really.
Because Inception is like his greatest pride and joy. Like he really worked to make that movie happen, and there's a ton of CGI. Now, yes, the hallway scene was practical. They built the hallway and rotated around.
Yeah.
Because he says we don't have to do that in CGI because it's just people are gonna know that it's not real, right? Especially given the test of time. But like things exploding or the city folding or something like that, that's all CG and it still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
So when he does use them, because he does use them, right?
Yeah,
he really puts effort into them and makes it look good.
I'm not saying it's a bad thing or that he's like bad. It was just really funny that like you see these intense CG moments, but like the intro to the movie of him talking, it's like we really didn't use CG. Yeah. So it was just a little bit. It was a bit oxymoron. It was a bit of an oxymoron, but also there is like in this action scene, there's also something really cool that happens where you like because of the 2 timelines like working together, you see things from so many different perspectives on the battlefield.
Yeah.
And like props to those actors, those extras, to like stay in place, do all that stuff, like because it's the same. Like having to reset and like do that is like crazy. And I'm thinking specifically of like, and maybe they shot it twice, but I didn't notice when Robert is like the you see it in real time. The Jeep is following them into the base, and you still see all of the battle behind them.
Yeah.
And then you see it from Robert's perspective, and you still see all the battle in the mirror, and it looks great.
Yeah.
And I'm like, wow, that's some like good like continuity of like keeping everything together. So
we should also mention, because I began something and didn't end it.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna finish my earlier tangent. At the end, we see they get down to this caged area where they're locked in by one of the main henchmen, and on the body there's this floor with a similar orange cord hanging off the backpack. Like, oh, hey, I remember that from the Opera House at the beginning of the movie. And then at the end of the movie, you find out that it's actually Robert Pattinson's backpack that has the orange cord. So he was actually the one at the beginning of the movie in the Opera House, which they talk about a little bit later in passing. And he was the one that, spoiler alert, really big time, he dies at the end of the movie by taking a bolt in the head to open a door.
He saves John David's life in the most like insane, cool way possible.
And it's so cool because you don't even know who it is at that moment.
No.
Right? You only find out afterwards.
I had my suspicions it was Robbie, but
yeah, that was really
and
cool.
it's so just like I audibly gasped and went like this in the theater. I was like, they just did that. I was like, what?
Yeah.
They just took a bullet to the head. It was nuts. And then they put. How does the bald guy die? Don't they just trap him in there? I really hated
they shoot him and he falls off.
Right.
Yeah.
I really hated this bald guy. I just like more than I hated Kenneth Branagh.
Yeah.
And I talked about my hatred for Kenneth Branagh as a character in this movie, not as an actor.
Yes.
Or person. Anyway, I think we should probably
move on to the highway.
The highway. I think the highway is probably my favorite action scene of the movie.
And I know you want to gush. You may gush about the heist. Keep in mind, most of his thoughts I agree with.
Yeah. Well, I
Unless
think
he's changed his mind.
No. So they are doing a mobile heist. They have to, they have to steal something. They have to steal plutonium.
Uranium-241.
Yes,
which is actually part of this physical algorithm.
Yes, they have to steal this uranium, and it's on the move. And I'm thinking, oh, it's gonna be another like Fast and Furious heist, whatever. I was excited. Boy, did they surpass all of my expectations, because in this movie we have understood that these are professionals. Like, they get it done. Like, they're saving the world. The stakes are already immensely high. They don't need to add a bunch of extra drama and useless tension to the action scenes. And they don't. This heist goes off without a hitch. It's perfect.
Well, the very, very smallest of hitches that is immediately dealt with. There's a cop car that shows up.
Yeah, and they
just blow its tires out.
Yeah.
And it's gone.
And then it's done. Which they expected the police to come anyway. They had planned for that. So, like, it actually is like, it shows them as competent people. They're not bumbling idiots. And, like, it's incredible. I feel like
bumbling idiots is going to be your term for these podcasts.
Yeah, bumbling idiots. I'm coining it right now. But, so it's this amazing, like, and the cinematography here is so fluid. Like, it's panning as cars are going. It's not static. It's moving, and it's awesome. And the choreography, like between like the drivers and like the stunt coordination is incredible. And that's all real, by the way. They shut down a highway for 3 weeks to film this scene, and it's bonkers. It's incredible, and it goes to show you what happens when you write characters in a movie and actually have them succeed as being competent.
Well, I think it works so well because this heist is not the conflict of the movie.
No.
Right? So you don't have to have things go wrong. You don't have to have extra things in the way. Why? Because this is actually supposed to happen for the point of the story, so don't make it more difficult than it needs to be. Just have it go, as it needs to go, and it looks cool without anything going wrong. So
yes, it's not, I Fast 7, love the movie to death, but that stupid bus scene is way too long and way too drawn out. I love it and I watch it and it's stupid action, but everything always goes wrong. Every time, and I'm sick of that. Like, we have seen 6 previous movies of these people. You'd think they'd get their crap together. Like, and then so Christopher Nolan throws that out the window and is like, no, they're professionals. Like, they got it. Now, mind you, the villain, like, still succeeds, but it's not because the heist failed. It's because John David Washington made a bad call.
Well, Kenneth also kind of cheats.
Yeah, Kenneth does also cheat because he's going backwards in time, so that they can't account for.
Yeah.
So, like, it was just, it was incredible.
Well, and this is post-heist. Is the moment where you can see the scene that's been in every trailer. So, I mean, excluding the very first teaser trailer, where the car flips back over. It's already been knocked over. It's like, wow, what the heck's going on? And then they do a little bit of car chase. Mm-hmm. And they don't kick a dead horse with it either. They're getting chased by a car going backwards. Oh, it's actually getting scary because we don't like watching things move backwards. We use things going forwards.
Mm-hmm.
So we see something's going on. Then guess what? It's Kenneth holding Elizabeth Vicky, at gunpoint. Give me the piece of the algorithm. So then he chucks the case over and wants that. And there's this nice moment of tension where John Davis will jump into the other car and stop the car just in time.
Did that real jump, by the way?
Oh yeah. I mean, they probably weren't moving that fast, but
it's a
good stunt.
It's incredible.
What else do you say about it? As far as the time going forward.
I love the simplicity of the heist too. Yep. Getting the materials to do it, sure, they don't even need to show it, but they just box this car in with 4 big giant trucks.
Yep.
And like they don't do it in
they use a firefighter ladder to go on top and then get out of the way for the explosion.
But the thing that they do really well is they don't just like all of a sudden 4 trucks roll up on this thing.
Yeah.
They do it as a steady pace. Is like one truck just merges into the lane. Then as they get down into it's a 2-lane highway now. The other guy rolls in. Oh, we're on a 3-lane highway. The guy comes in behind. 4-lane highway. Guy scoots in front. I did a bunch of hand motions that you can't see, but it doesn't matter. And they do it so well. And then the fire truck rolls up. Robbie, helps the dude, and John David drives over or climbs over, drops in, gets the case, and gets out. Like it's clean, it's quick, and it's dope.
And then, for the very first time in the movie, we kind of see it before. We'll talk about it in the airport scene.
Yeah.
But we really get to see an in-depth view of inversion and how this machine works and stuff. And John David decides to go back on the highway to retrieve this object, which he fails to do.
Also to save her life too.
Yes. And the way that they deal with things going backwards, I liked it.
Yeah.
John David just cannot drive that car.
He gets it in the end, but
kind of, but even not really. He's just getting all over the place, and most of it is just doing.
Well, because gravity's different and everything, and traction, everything is all reversed. So
yeah. And I like that he doesn't just sit in the car. He's like, I already got this, and boom, off he goes. And it's taking some work here.
Yeah. Also,
and I also like that he doesn't win. He gets blown up. No, thank goodness. The transfer of heat was reversed as well, so it just gave him hypothermia.
He just froze. Because like I said in the beginning, everything is reversed. Yep. So fire becomes ice. Yep. Which they only use in that one part. They never mentioned it, but the person, the second in command of this army, makes a big deal about it, and then they just never use it again. And I was so sad. Like, you could do so many cool things with that.
Yeah.
But
maybe if Warner Brother beats Christopher Nolan in a basement until he agrees to make a sequel, then we'll see it more.
I just think it would be really cool to see an ice thrower. Like, just like, I think it would be so cool. But I don't know much. The heist is like, this heist is a very small action scene, really.
Yeah.
It's maybe only 5 minutes long. Like, it's not that long.
Yeah, then there's a bit more after that with them.
But
the
that's not.
Shootout and the cars and the transfer of people. And
yeah, but that's like.
It's a cool moment, and it works really well for the function of the story as well.
Yeah. But I think we should move on to the airport.
Airport time?
Oh, yeah.
Airport time.
So they crashed a 747, like, for reals. If you didn't pick that up from the fourth wall break when in the trailers when Robert says, we're going to crash a plane, well, Christopher Nolan actually crashed the plane.
Well, he did himself.
Well, sure. You know what? He probably hit the remote control button that did it.
Yeah, they built a little building, and they built like a fake parking lot.
No, they filmed that at a real airport.
Yeah, but there wasn't actual like lampposts there that were pre-existing.
Oh yeah,
they built them on there like loose, so when the plane hit them, they would just knock over and stuff.
Yes. They do that. That's in pretty much all action movies.
Yeah,
they like score stuff and everything. But you get to see this scene twice.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
I like how they show the, again when you watch this heist and it goes smooth on the highway, them taking over the plane and getting into the Freeport,
the complex. Yeah.
To get where they need to go. Very smooth, very calculated. They know what's going to happen when.
They're professionals. They've timed it. Like, they've practiced.
Yeah, and like at one point, John David starts going, and the guy who's guiding them around is like, what the heck is he doing? And well, he's actually sorting out various lines, but don't tell this guy.
Yeah.
So leading up to, the big boom, it's a cool, spy, we're watching everything unfold just perfectly, step by step, beat by beat. And, it's fun to watch.
Well, they just do it really well. Like, again, they don't raise the stakes when they don't have to. The stakes have already been raised.
Yeah.
We already know what's on the line. Like, the whole point is just it's this free port, they call it, so there's like no taxes on importing stuff.
Yeah.
Because whatever.
So rich people can keep all this
stuff. They keep it all their stuff and whatever. And this is also the place where Kenneth Branagh has the time inversion machines.
Yeah.
So that
and supposedly, which you find out he doesn't, but he's holding a picture that his wife wrongly validated.
Yes.
And he's kind of using that to blackmail her. Sounds like a secondary. Secondary?
Secondary.
That's one of the motives that they're there for. And then they want to find out what's in the middle of this complex as well.
Yeah.
Which winds up being this inversion machine.
Yeah.
Which leads to one of the coolest. Like, I guess there's a little bit of gunfire, but it's mostly like a fist fight.
Yeah.
It's so cool. Because it's John David fighting an inverted figure. At least the first time, which you later find out is John David. This scene from both directions in time is so cool to watch. And I'll tell you that they added this. It's not computer generated. The stuntmen actually learned and trained how to do things backwards
and forward.
So when people are being like, "Whoa," flip like that, they actually just trained and figured out how to do that, which is awesome.
It was awesome. And I think most people, when they watch this movie for the first time, probably figure out that that's John David from being inverted.
Yeah.
If I can do it the first time watching it and still not having quite a grasp on the movie, I think most people can. And what sells me is there's a couple moments where they're like doing like, I don't know, it looks like judo or something, and they're mirroring each other's moves. It's the exact same, left, right, grab, whatever. Like it's identical, and it's not to the point where one is countering the other. It's he knows what he's going to do because it's himself.
Yeah,
and it's done super well. And then Robert Pattinson
chases the other version.
Chases the other, like the inverted one,
Pulls off his helmet.
And realizes it's him, and then it's like, oh crap! Well, clearly we did this for a reason. So lets him go,
Yeah.
and you can kind of put, and he's like, oh, he got away. So like,
it's just I dealt with it.
Yeah.
So I think John David thinks that actually just killed him, but
it's incredible, and
it at that point in the movie, it's definitely the spectacle piece because I mean that plane blows stuff up. There's fire everywhere, and one of the jet engines actually ends up exploding later and making another boom.
Which I was wondering, I had a question because it doesn't matter, but if they're inverted in time when they go back, and they're like moving to the fire and everything, like it looked like just normal fire. But
Fire probably looks about the same forward and back, but the big hint is the firemen with their hoses, the water's coming into their hoses and stuff, and explosions are being sent into the plane.
But that's my question. If they're inverted, shouldn't that water have just been adding to the fire? Because it would be inverted. The transfer of heat is different. So that was what I was wondering. If you're inverted, do the actions of a normal person affect the inverted person? And how does that work?
Do your actions influence someone else?
If you, as a normal person,
yes,
a firefighter, are shooting water at a flame, you are now John David Washington, you are inverted. Does the firefighter's actions affect you in an inverted way?
Sure, they probably should have been careful.
Right, so I was just always wondering about that.
Well, and we see that in that fight with John David versus John David, where, like, he'll, in the second version, you see him, like, flip him over his back.
Yeah.
And then in the forward time, it's him, getting pulled over into a wall. It's like, whoa! So there is some influence both ways.
Okay, because I was thinking about the environment that they're in.
Yeah.
It would have been way, like, just with the explosions and everything, like, it would have been way different. And they didn't show it. So I was wondering if, like, do the actions of an inverted person or a regular person affect the other?
Yeah.
Because they don't explain that.
Yeah. Well, they let you see it.
They do let you see it.
Yeah, what else do we want to talk about? I feel like we talked about the spectacle.
We talked about the action. There's like the cool scene that they show in like the trailers with the bungee cord of them getting into the
which I personally thought was a result of inversion in the trailers, but then it wound up just being a motorized bungee cord. So
yeah, and the physics to me still don't make sense, but whatever, it looks cool.
Yeah.
I think with like the action is but a small piece of this movie, really.
Yeah. It is not per se an action movie.
Well,
they do action in it, but that's not the point of the movie.
Yeah. The point of the movie is there is basically an algorithm, like we've said many times already, that will, if all 9 pieces are put together, will bring about the inversion of the world, which will basically implode on itself. Yeah. And so, Kenneth Branagh, his whole motive is, since he's dying, he's rich and famous, and he's just mad at the world. It's like, well, I'm going to find all 9 of these pieces, and then I'm going to decide when the world ends. He wants to have the ultimate control. That's the whole, like, because that's what his girlfriend says, or wife or whatever, is like, she likes to control. Yeah. So, that's like the whole point of the movie, which, it's great. He's a great villain.
Yep.
Does a fantastic job.
The acting's great. The story's super interesting. It keeps you intact, invested.
Yeah.
I said earlier, I really love the score.
Yeah.
Do I think it's Christopher Nolan's best movie? No, I think it's very good, but it's not his best. Do I think it's the best movie of the year? We have the rest of the year to find out, don't we?
I mean, I think I agree with Scott. It is no tag, though.
Yes.
So, kind of got that going for us.
Right.
Overall, like, it is a great, great movie. And, well, great's a, I don't know. I loved the movie. I liked being mentally questioned at the end of like, does this make sense? And ultimately, does it really have to?
Well,
No.
I'll tell you. I don't necessarily want to go around promoting everyone else's channels here, but New Rockstars did a video on one of the trailer's breakdowns, and they go over how this inversion works and how it relates to entropy and this scientific theory, and that's what the movie's based off of. And if you watch that video, it actually helps to clarify some things. I definitely could not word it as well as they could, but if you want some sense of an idea, that's a place that I would send you to.
Also, you could just totally watch this movie and enjoy it, and totally fine with it.
Yep.
They give you enough in the movie to like latch on to enough to be like, okay, I think I get it. You know?
Yeah.
Like they give you enough. You know, it's.
You don't need supplementary material.
You don't.
Actually, speaking of supplementary material, this movie opens with a scene in an opera house. At which point I said, well, this doesn't feel right, because in December, leading into January, February, when I went to IMAX theaters to watch Star Wars or Birds of Prey, I also happened to see this
Tenet
prologue, which takes place in an opera house. So when the movie started that way, I said, well, that's not fair, because I already watched the prologue. I thought I was going to have a little something bonus for when I went to the movie.
And it's completely different.
I wouldn't say it's completely different, but they do add different scenes in both of them. And I like, the prologue was different enough that I was like, I feel like I had a unique, little bit of extra going into this movie. But also to have it twisted a little bit and have that not in the movie, but have other things thrown in there. I feel like it worked really well.
It's great. It's
Yep.
like,
what are we rating out of 10?
I'm gonna like a 7.5.
7.5. That's your grade.
I got. Yeah, I don't know.
I'd give it like a 9.
I was being very like I was just being very honest, because there are still some like things that I'm like, well, one thing that makes me upset is they didn't do an inverted explosion. Like they didn't do a bomb going in on itself.
What was there? Well,
there wasn't, but you see all the time.
It kind of was right at the end.
No, you didn't see a bomb going in.
You never
reverse.
watched the bomb at the source, but you do see explosions in it.
Yeah, but not like
from the blue team lands.
But not like a whole like thing. I was like, that would have been so cool.
Yeah.
But
too many VFX.
Well, yeah, it was just unless that doesn't detract from the movie. It just I really wanted to see it.
That's why Logan's giving it 7.5.
No,
there was no bomb.
I just didn't know of the scale of like. I'll give it an 8.5.
There you go.
But this has been
the
Moviecast.
Thank you for watching.
Yeah. Make sure to like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Share it around, and tell all your friends about it. Share them this video if they're interested in Tenet. Maybe only show them the first half.
If they haven't seen it.
If they haven't seen it, yeah. And make sure that you also follow Logibear74 on Twitch if you want to catch us live.
Or catch Logan live playing video games.
Yeah, or catch me. I don't stream enough, but yeah, if you want to see some gameplays, turn your notifications on. Also, if you have, we say this every time, but if you have ideas for future movie casts, movie series,
let us know.
Whatever. Whisper me on Twitch. Hit me up on Twitter. Leave a YouTube comment. That's probably the best way. I'm not sure if you can. Also, like we said at the beginning of the video, Connor also does do written movie reviews.
Yep. So
make sure you go to facebook.com/Shinmin's List.
Yeah. Say that 10 times fast. Goodness me.
Yeah, I'm not going to. And yeah, catch all those movie reviews there, including Tenet. Yep. And
we'll see you next week. We don't know what we're doing yet.
It
might be Mulan. It might be something else.
We might have a special guest.
We have no idea, as it sounds right now.
Yeah.
So come back next week and see what we come up with.
We'll let you know. Yeah.
Bye.